Darcy needed somewhere to throw all of her bags of loot, and opened the back to throw her bags in. It was full of guns. She tossed her bags in anyway, having to stop herself from yelling it out. There must be a good reason. Probably to keep the guns away from the bad guys. It seemed reasonable to her now that only good people should have guns, not bad guys. She even found a few guns of her own looting the bodies that she'd been sneaking past earlier. Imagine how much bad guys were doing with their crowbars and bricks and knives. Imagine them with guns. The thought horrified Darcy, but she had also helped take guns from the bad guys. Malaise would be so proud of her. And then Darcy hopped in the truck next to Malaise. They got turned around and Malaise gave them directions through the construction area away from all the traffic. Before long, they were on the main road. They had a few miles of stretch ahead, so Malaise and Knuckles both checked their phones. Malaise's message had sent successfully, but nothing back. Knuckles had several concerned messages to his messages from his wife and tried to send her a message saying he was okay. He unfortunately had no bars, so the message sat. When they got safely out of town, there was a static break over his radio. Some of the guys need to stop for gas, the crackle over the radio said. Roger on fuel. Stop as soon as we see something. Malaise wondered if there were fuel stations on generators. Appreciate it, came the response. They were all munching on jerky that Knuckles had handed out. Darcy was concerned this was some kind of trick, or they'd get ambushed by the group, or that they'd get left behind with their stuff taken, or that they'd get attacked by another group. She looked to Malaise, visibly worried. They both looked outside, unable to see into the darkness. They could only imagine the edge of the inner part of the storm as they slowly got away from it. Malaise put her hand on Darcy's shoulder in response to the concern she could feel from her friend. Malaise had seen them in action, and they seemed like stand-up guys. It was raining hard, and they were driving at a medium pace with nobody on the road. The relative white noise allowed for semi-private conversations. Malaise whispered to Darcy, We've been saving each other back and forth now all day. They seem to be good guys, and I trust them. They remind me of my dad. Darcy thought about that and always felt safe around Malaise's father. Darcy relaxed a little bit. Malaise didn't relax, though. Guys could never really be trusted in SHTF with girls around immediately. They couldn't even really be trusted during normal times, actually. Trust had to be earned. Took forever. Most guys usually eventually showed their true nature. Usually sooner rather than later. Malaise vowed to be extra cautious and aware for both her and Darcy, and after a few more miles they saw a light on the side of the road. It shined up to the sky in the storm like a big beacon. Got a gas station on the left, it looks like, Knuckles relayed into the comm. Let's go for it. This may be our only chance, was relayed back. Roger. This got Darcy nervous all over again. She grabbed Malaise's right hand without thinking. Tom pulled off the freeway and went down to the left. The gas station was on the left side of the road. Dang gas station is on that side of the road. I hate crossing under the freeway, Tom said. But they all looked and nobody was around, just the gas station. As they got closer, said, Cash only, in huge letters on the cardboard. Knuckles said, Crap, hopefully they have cash. I wonder how much it will be per gallon. Hopefully the guys. Okay. Malaise looked at the fuel tank, and theirs was basically full. Knuckles said, We've got to hurry. This could be the only gas station running for miles. A generator was heard in the background, making the situation all the more unsettling. It felt like the generator was calling out to everyone who could hear. That wasn't very many people right now that would be able to hear, though. It was in the middle of the night, and the storm still provided enough white noise to hopefully buy them enough time to fuel and get away from this beacon of civilization. We don't want to attract any attention. You ladies might want to stay in the truck. They both nodded. The truck parked in a position where I could leave at a moment's notice. Knuckles said, Tom, leave the truck running. You know what to do. Tom nodded. Before Knuckles hopped out, Malaise got his attention and stuffed a bunch of bills in his hands that she had pulled from her bag. It was all the cash she had for emergency money plus her tips for the day. Darcy saw this and did the same. Knuckles saw this and understood, and then jumped out and tucked it all in his pocket really quick. The vehicles that needed to fuel pulled up to the stations. Malaise struck up a conversation with Tom, asking him about the guns in the back. He explained he was a gun shop owner, and that made Malaise feel more at ease, and she timidly asked him about the carbine takedown she had stuffed in her bag. Her dad had showed her how to use it at the range once, but she didn't want to fumble with it and look silly. Tom showed her how to unpop the stock, rack the bolt, show clear where the safety was, how to collapse the stock, how to pop a mag. Most importantly, that she needed to rack the bolt again to load her first round, which she did with determination. Then, indexing her finger, popped the safety a few... toggled the safety a few times. Then left it on safe. And kept the firearm pointed in a safe direction. Malaise appreciated that and said if it was all the same to her, she would keep her carbine to her side and watch out the window just in case. Tom approved and was happy she was taking the initiative for their safety. This made Darcy feel a lot safer too, people that she trusted with guns. It was like the police, but even better, because they could be with her all the time. Knuckles walked up to the gas station kiosk to negotiate fuel prices. The gas attendant didn't really know what was going on. Knuckles didn't let the attendant see how much money he had, so that the negotiation was fair. The fuel attendant had lots of questions, but Knuckles ensured the pumps were running first, after negotiating $5 on a gallon. Maximum 7 gallons per vehicle total. Knuckles looked at the vehicles, and that looked like it would cover it. In answering the attendant's questions, he answered as vague as he could, downplaying the incident. A lot of the questions he could answer completely honestly with an "I don't know." Tom in the lead truck had the heat blazing due to how cold it was, but turned it down and lowered the window a crack so they could all hear. Some tiny drips from driving rain got in, but it wasn't too bad. The transparency made Malaise feel a lot better, like they weren't being left out of everything. Darcy had asked her to take her mask off so she could see Malaise's face instead of seeing her own reflection back at her. This meant Malaise had to double down on acting confident in the situation, but it also meant that Darcy calmed down quite a bit more. Granted, having the carbine takedown did make Malaise quite a bit more legitimately comfortable, especially since Tom helped her become re-familiar with it. The fact that they could hear the conversations going on and they didn't sound too coded or sinister was a legitimate relief. Malaise had considered bolting from the vehicle and taking her chances with Darcy on foot to their final destination, but weighed her options and decided against it. It would be too dangerous, and she was feeling okay about this group now. Tom broke the silence with a question. "Where are we headed?" "South more than west." Hugging the bay. "There's a place I know where we'll be safe." She felt comfortable telling them without being secretive. Malaise hadn't felt any ill intent this entire time with such a diverse group of people. "Cool, that's near my place," he responded, otherwise lost in thought of his own as he cautiously checked outside towards any potential blind spots. Around that time, there were several telltale clicks at the gas pumps. This was all the fuel they were going to get, some of the last precious petrol that would be legitimately pumped. Knuckles jumped back in and they all took off. Now that they were all fueled up, then back under the freeway and back onto it. Chapter 21, To the Bug Out. Late night. Knuckles gave the girls back what was left of the money. He explained that it helped significantly in augmenting what they already had. They had done the math, and one of the vehicles would have had to get left behind without that extra cash. What Knuckles left out was that cash was essentially worthless now. The attendant just didn't know it yet. He figured to himself he'd better not ever bring up the cash thing again. It was too bad that this was the last time it ever served a purpose. At least it served a good purpose. It meant that they didn't have to trade a gun or ammo or something, which might have really spooked the fuel attendant anyway. As they drove to Malays's bug out, as she gave course corrections here and there, they all noticed there were no cars on the road. Sure, it was late at night, but surely there'd be some cars, right? Maybe police or military heading to the city, but there was none. Nobody. As they got further away from the city, the storm began to subside into normal, average, familiar rain. The wind died down, and the truck wasn't getting shoved around as much. A single siren was heard far off in the distance.